This is Jackie B. Peterson. I'm your host today on Solo Pro Radio. Welcome to the show. I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I'm up to before we get on talking to our great guest. I am the author of Better, Smarter, Richer, 7 Business Principles for Solo, Creative, and Encore Entrepreneurs. You know, I'm just thoroughly convinced that solopreneurship is the business model of the 21st century. It's just the way more and more people are doing business because it's easy to do, it helps you monetize your expertise, and it's one of the types of business models that you can make it as intense or not intense. I'm not sure what the word not intense is, as you want, based on where you are in your status in life. Perfect for creatives, perfect for artists, perfect for many, many, many of you encore entrepreneurs. So go to the website, bettersmarterricher.com, and take a look at the book, take a look at the principles. Hope you'll download the book and join me in my next symposium. We do a free symposium explaining the 7 principles. The next one will be at the Portland Community College Climb Center on September 17th. Also, we will have a study group beginning on September 7th where you work the book with a cohort of your peers. And we're also going to launch our Encore Entrepreneur Program at the Climb Center on September 11th. And this will be a program for you Encores to help you, first of all, figure out your business concept, then write a business plan, and then gain some business skills. We're quite excited about it as the principles of Better, Smarter, Richer will be woven all the way through it. So, you know, take a look. This will really help your business, I know. So today I'm going to be talking with Sean Harry. Sean is an ordained minister, a published author, a business coach, and a faculty member at the Small Business Development Center at Portland Community College. He's not only an expert at developing a thriving business, but he's also an encore entrepreneur who successfully redefined his career path. While working at the SBDC, curriculum for the 4-week marketing class that has been picked up by a publisher. Yahoo, Sean. His book, The Best Little Marketing Plan, A Simple Guide for Building a Great Marketing Strategy, is now available. And I look forward to hearing more about Sean's journey. Please help me welcome Sean Harry. Hello, Sean.
Well, hi, Jackie, and hello to your listeners. I'm so glad to be here today. Really excited to be here.
Me too. As many of our listeners know, I'm a colleague of Sean's at the Small Business Development Center. I love working with him, and we have the same approach to many things, and we both believe that the work we're doing is to help our small businesses start, grow, and thrive. I love the thrive part. I love that.
Absolutely.
Thrive. Yeah.
It is. It's so fun to work with you, Jackie. We laugh a lot. Just tell
I know. I know. It's joyful work. So, Sean, you clearly have an unusual background. Why don't you tell us your story? Like, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? And for heaven's sakes, what led you to become an ordained minister?
Well, it doesn't seem that unusual to me because, you know, it's just my life. I lived it right from the beginning. I knew that I was going to go into ministry from the time I was in the 6th grade. And really everything that I did through high school, through college, you know, I served on national committees for our church and all kinds of things. And everything that I did was, you know, pushing me into ministry. And I loved it, and I was pretty good at it for, you know, 20 years. And I absolutely loved it. So I knew that I was going to be a minister. I think that what's unusual is that I left the ministry, had some personal stuff happen in my life, and right about the time I turned 40, which is not unusual, I'm finding out.
No.
And I left the ministry and decided to start working in the business arena.
That's great. That's absolutely great. But that's quite a switch for people to go from the ministry into the business community. So talk about the path that took you from after the ministry, and you know, how did you develop your skills and, you know, take off in a whole new career with business coaching? What were your steps to do that? I mean, how were you thinking about it, and how did you see that what you were doing in the ministry would apply to working in business?
Well, yeah, the question itself that you just asked implies that there was some sort of a plan, and the reality is that there was no plan. I had no idea what I was going to do after I left the ministry because I had never thought about doing anything else. And it was around 2001 or so that I left the ministry, and that was the time of a recession. And I was living in Portland at the time, and going through a divorce. My kids were here, and my parents were here in town, and I couldn't find a job. Nobody wanted to hire a person with a doctorate of ministry and a master's of divinity degree to sell widgets or whatever. Right? So there was something else that I have done in my life always that I was pretty good at, and that was school. So I went back to school, and I got a master's degree. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that if I wanted to go into business, I was going to have to learn a whole new language, right, the language of business. And so I went back and got a master's degree in international management from Portland State. And after that, I worked in corporate America for about 4 or 5 years, in the cubicle and all of that kind of stuff. And, man, what I realized is that is not me. Sitting in a cubicle all day long, that's just not me. It was a miserable experience. So what I did then is I after about 5 years of that, I went and saw a career coach, a career counselor, and he helped me assess my personality and all kinds of stuff, looked up one side and down the other. And about 6 weeks into it, I looked at him and I said, "Tell me about your job. What you do seems very similar to what I did in the ministry." And he said, "I wondered when you were going to come to that realization." So I went into career coaching at that point.
Oh, that's great. Did you love career coaching?
I did. I absolutely loved it. I used to say that my goal was to help people figure out what they wanted to be when they grew up. Yeah. And I worked with 50-year-old, 45, 50-year-old, mostly men, but a lot of women too. And what I found is there was a huge crossover. I took an awful lot of stuff from my skills and as a minister into that new career as a career coach, because one of the things I worked for both DBM and Lee Hecht Harrison. Don't know if you know who those folks are, but when big companies like Xerox and Intel have a mass layoff, they call in those companies, and I worked with them, and it was as much a therapy session for many of those folks as it was career coaching, because a lot of these people were 25 years in their same company, and they came out and they had no idea what to do. And I could relate because I had gone through that, albeit voluntarily, but I had gone through that. So I was able to help them, move from the deer in the headlight to, okay, I can move forward. And that's really what I loved about it.
Oh, I think that's just absolutely great. And as you probably know, when we're launching our Encore Entrepreneur Program in September, that's just exactly what the first section of our program is going to be. I'm calling it Developing Your Business Concept, because, like you're talking about with people who've been part of a mass layoff in those middle years, I, too, have found that there are people that are encores, 50 plus, many of them in their 60s and even into their 70s, who want to create a business but can't imagine that they know anything that anybody would buy.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, they just can't imagine. And I do think that is one of the things that happens to people if they've worked a long time in corporate America. It tends to make you think that all that you know is what you know that's appropriate to that company, and, that there can't be anybody else who wants what you do. And so we're going to work on overcoming that, which you must have been doing a lot of that in career coaching, is, helping people understand they have skills.
Yeah, that are marketable, skills that are marketable, knowledge. Yeah, that other people are looking for. Yeah, that is so critical because people, particularly if they're coming out of corporate America where the rules are very clearly defined, and then you're told to write your own business plan, for goodness sakes. What is your business going to be? It can be very it can be a real challenge. What I find, Jackie, and I'm sure that you find this as well, is that when it clicks inside of them, that oh, wait a minute, maybe I do have something that's marketable and important and valuable for the world. When that clicks, there's a whole different set of energy, batteries that just start firing when people get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They get the idea that, oh, wait a minute, I do have something that's valuable. And it turns from this sort of woe is me to get out of my way, here I come.
With my creatives and Better, Smarter, Richer, I just have to tell you this story because I know you'll appreciate it. We have a study group that's going on right now. We were in session 3 yesterday, and there's this lovely, lovely ceramics artist. And, I just get after people about charging what they're worth. This is one of my themes all the time. They call me raise your prices, Jackie.
That's your middle name, Jackie, is raise your prices, double your fees.
And anyway, she started talking to us about she does ceramics for the yard, beautiful pots and sculptures. And she started talking about getting clay and then adding things to the clay so that its texture would work outside and it had a better feel to it, and how she's experimented with different things and different additives and different ratios of this kind of clay to that kind of clay, and all the rest of us in the room were just rapt listening to her talk. And I finally said, and you don't think that's valuable, that you know how to do that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you're not
and
charging.
You can kind of tell when people start talking about something that, this was true in the career coaching, but also in the work that I do now. You can tell when people hit their sweet spot because their eyes light up, they start to lean forward, they get excited, they run out of breath before they can tell you everything they know. And usually that's my big thing is, what's your value proposition? What makes you special? What makes you unique?
Yes.
And when they start,
when they start talking like that, there it was. Well, anyway, it was the whole group. There were 5 of us besides her yesterday, and the whole group was just, as I say, listening to her, with rapt attention because, of course, none of us know anything about ceramics except her.
Right.
And so she was explaining to us how, you take this one kind of clay and you add this to it and you add that to it and you do a little, kneading of the bread, and you do this, and pretty soon you've got a texture that is going to work outside, and it's going to have a texture that's wonderful to touch, and it holds the sun, and it, and we were just had our mouths hanging open because none of us had ever heard this before, and then we said, "Now, you're not charging for this?"
Yeah. This is your moneymaker right there, lady.
This is your moneymaker right there. That knowledge that has taken her 30 years, to learn this, and and gosh darn it, it's time, to put a high dollar value on it. But that's exactly what happens. I totally agree. So, what was your transition to go from career coaching to working with small business?
Well, there were a couple of things that happened. One is the Great Recession of 2008-9, right?
Yeah.
I was seeing 30 or 40 clients a week working through DBM at the time. And these people were in their 40s and 50s, some in their 60s, 2 or 3 years from retirement, quote unquote retirement. And they knew that first of all, there were no jobs. And secondly, they knew that there was no way, that they were going to beat out some 30-year-old person who had more up-to-date computer skills or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
mm-hmm.
so it's people just started saying, well, I've been doing this thing, this hobby for 20 years, like ceramics, like the gal you're talking about, right? And I wonder
mm-hmm.
if I could turn that into a business. Could you help me try to figure that out? Mm-hmm. And I've got a degree in business. As it turns out, I have started a couple of businesses in my lifetime. One of them was a church. I never thought, of that was starting a business. But then when I start working with people who are starting businesses, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Right. Exactly. So, that's what you did.
Yeah. So I started working with those folks, and then the other piece of it is I really started to get burned out. In the career coaching scheme, I was the guy that, people, honestly, they came into my class, and they had been somewhere for 25 years, and they were just completely defeated. And, of course, the first thing I said is, we're going to get you laughing, and we're going to start thinking about the future. And I know that it's painful, and here's why I know. And we would have a day where they'd go from, oh my God, to, okay, I can do this, I can move forward. But that really took its toll on me, and I really got kind of burned out. And then I met you guys over here at this SBDC and begged for you to let me come over and work with me. People looking forward.
Oh, we're lucky.
Yes,
we're lucky.
We're all.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to be here. So happy to be here.
Well, it's fabulous to have you as an SBDC colleague, and you have a wonderful outlook and very practical advice. So, it's just wonderful. So, from your point of view, what are some of the common problems that you see that small businesses share?
Well, there are a couple that are that really are pronounced. One of them, of course, is no secret to your listeners because it has to do with focus. And I know that you talk about finding a niche and just taking it deep and really working that. And what I tend to see is with a lot of folks, there's a lack of focus. Because, part of it is this fear that, we have to get paid, and anybody with a checkbook is my perfect customer. And so we end up taking jobs that really are not what we want to do. Neither are we the best at it. And so lack of focus is probably one of the big problems that I see with small businesses. Mm-hmm. And then I think also another thing that I have noticed, particularly as I've been working here at the SBDC, is a lot of small businesses they lack systems and processes.
Yes.
And you said, as we got started, you said that solopreneurship is the business model of the 21st century. And I tend to agree with you on that. But a lot of people who are solopreneurs, they think, well, I don't need to have systems and processes in place because it's just me. And the reality is, if you have systems and processes in place, even if it's just you, it will make your life so much easier. And I mean systems and processes for your, what happens when I get a check? Here's the process. I do this, and this, put it in the bank. Right, all of that, right? What is the process when somebody calls and says, I'm interested in hiring you for XYZ? Have a process. Go right through step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of course, a process for making or creating whatever it is that you're doing, a process for, just for everything in the business, we need to have systems and processes in place.
Yes, we do. And, if people don't, what happens to them is that they scare their customers away. And I know I was working with another client the other day, and I said, so how do you decide, what you're going to use? And she said, well, it's just my gut and my intuition. I said, I know that, and what I want you to do is articulate it. Because if you tell a potential customer that you are making this decision on their $1 million project based on your gut, you are never going to get that job. But the truth is, your gut is not lying to you, but you need to articulate a process and an approach that gets you to what your gut is telling you, so that people say, oh, me getting a good job is not dependent upon whether or not the gut is operating today. It's dependent on analysis of the answers to these questions, and I'm going to get a good job, no matter what. That's what we're talking about a lot. And people have a hard time with that.
And, one of the things that you just said there also makes me think of another good reason to have systems and processes in place, particularly as a solo, is because some days you just don't feel like going to work.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a corporation where there are other people, you can kind of slack off sometimes. You can have a slow day. But if you're the only person in your business, or even if there's only a handful, you slack off. That doesn't mean anything. You got to come back tomorrow and pick up where you pick up the slack and go for it. So if you have processes and systems in place, even if you don't feel like going to work, you can just follow the steps. Okay, this is what I do, and then I do this next, and then I do that next, and that's.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Well, I agree. These are huge problems that small businesses have, and as you know, one that I talk about a lot is that people are afraid to charge enough money, and because if they don't charge enough money, they can't buy the services that they need. And I never mean for solos hiring employees to do things. I mean outsourcing, and then I don't mean outsourcing to Pakistan. I mean outsourcing on a B2B, business-to-business level, and find a good company to be your bookkeeping company or your financial manager, and find a good company to be your your writer or your webmaster, and find a good company to help you with your processes. And I say, have you ever thought about it, that the difference between you being an employer and managing employees, where, we're all kind of skeptical of the boss, and we're not quite sure what they're asking us to do, if it's going to be okay, whereas when you are somebody is a client of yours, you are, you're their customer. And, of course, they want to work with you. I mean, it's a totally different relationship. And you get a much better level of service is what I think happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's your process to help your clients get clear about who they are and what they want to do? It sounds like you laugh together for sure.
Yeah, that's number one. If it's not fun, we're not doing it. So I do have a process that I developed, particularly around marketing, and I call it the ARMS model, ARMS. And so anything with marketing has to do with two things: understanding yourself and understanding your customer. Mm-hmm. And so the ARMS model is, let's do an assessment of what we have. What do we have to offer? That's the A, assessment. And then R is, okay, let's research what the customer needs. And so somewhere between there, so if you draw two circles and you make them intersect, one of them is you, one of them is them. We call this the you-them model. I'm a simple guy, right? The you-them model, that's where you have the A and the R. And then what we do is we go to the M, which is you develop your marketing plan. And then you develop all of your materials, if you need to get pictures taken, or if you need to write web copy, or if you need to, whatever. And then the S is for strategy, for strategizing and following the strategy. So ARMS makes it simple. Like I say, I'm a simple guy, but I just like to remember, use your arms. Use your arms to embrace your customer.
Oh, that's great. That's great, and that's something that it's an acronym people can remember and do. I find that people have a tremendous amount of fear around marketing. Do you find that as well, since you're specializing in that area now?
I do. I think it's the fear that I see is that people don't want to sell themselves. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like to sell myself. And so, you don't want to be that guy or that gal, right, the person who comes in and they're pushy, right? And, well, the first thing I tell people is,
talk you into stuff you don't want to do.
Yeah. No, yeah. I don't want to push them into that. Well, the first thing I tell people is when they say, I really don't want to sell myself, the first thing, of course, I say is, in most states, it's illegal to sell yourself anyway. So you can't even sell body parts, So we have to first look at, what does it really mean to conduct sales? That's one of the things that we really need to look at. And what it means for most of us, particularly if we're solopreneurs, if we're artists, if we're, therapists, that kind of thing, we have some kind of practice that is making people's lives better. It's really not about selling. It's about helping that person find what they need.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of health people in the health practitioner field, and I was working with not a physical therapist, but a personal trainer at one of the gyms around town, and they're responsible for bringing in their own clients. And she said to me, I don't want to be pushy, and I don't want to sell. And I looked her in the eye and I said, now hold on just a second. I'm a potential customer of yours. I'm 50 years old, 54 years old. I have more than 40 pounds of extra weight on me, and I am looking to somebody with your expertise to help me get rid of it. I said, the reality is, if you don't sell to me, I could die. That is the reality. And she's like, wow, I guess I never thought of it that way. Then, of course, she said, would you like a 10-session package or a 20-session package?
Oh, that's great.
But it's really not about it. And if we have to get out of probably the most important thing about marketing is we've got to get out of our own way.
Yes.
Have to get out of our own way. It's not about us.
I always talk about marketing as enthusiastically talking about what you love to do. That's kind of my, talking to people who say, I don't want to sell. I say, you're being enthusiastic about what you love, and sharing it with people so that they know that something that you offer is available out there, because otherwise how would they know? And people have to think about that a little bit. But I do think that there's a lot of old programming about, it's not good to talk about yourself. It's not good to put yourself forward. Who do you think you are that you would talk about yourself as opposed to, whatever else. And
right.
I think a lot of people have been programmed about that you have to keep your place and, be humble and, all that kind of stuff. And
well, honestly, that's even a challenge that I've had, coming from ministry, is that we don't talk about how wonderful we are. We talk about the other person, or their goals, or their salvation, to use a ministry word. And so it has been one of the things that I've had to change in my mindset about how do I let people know what I have to offer, and where is that line drawn that's between me offering and being enthusiastic about what I love, or being a pushy salesperson. My experience with that, Jackie, is that most people who are concerned about that really have nothing to fear.
Oh, yes.
It's the people who are not concerned about being a pushy salesperson that can easily become pushy salespeople. So if you're worried about being too pushy, you probably have nothing to worry about.
That's a good rule of thumb, isn't it? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, like most things in life, this isn't about us. You know, it's about what we do, and you know, it isn't you that is going to save somebody. You know, using your kind of ministry vernacular, but it's going to be them making changes themselves. And what you are doing is providing coaching and tools and encouragement. But we all know a good coach, you can't do it for them.
No,
you can do it with
absolutely.
them,
Yeah.
but you can't do it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so true.
I always say that, you know, we can walk with someone, but we can't get ahead of them. We can only walk with them and support them where they are interested in being supported. And if they're not interested in being supported, or they're going slower than we want them to, we can do a little encouraging, but then we have to step back. You know, it's really up to the individual to do, you know, these steps. So that's why they're seeking us out, is what I figure. You know, they're seeking us out because they want us to help them and give them some guidance, and I'm happy to do that. But then you have to let go, and they have to do it. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for because a lot of your people, solopreneurs, are in that kind of field too. Sometimes, and it's hard to do. Sometimes you got to let a client go because it's not working. It's not what they are going to do. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And so there's a point, you know, where it isn't up to me. You know, it's not up to me. It's up to coach, encourage, share information, you know, listen, you know, speak the truth, and then let it go. And they will either take it on or not. Yeah. So let's talk about your writing your book. I'm so thrilled for you. A lot of our listeners are working on books. In fact, I've kind of finally have said when I think a book should be part of your marketing program, and that is when you are you have an idea and an approach, and you're trying to introduce it to the world or make a change in the world. It's time to write a book. And for a lot of people, I call it write your manifesto. So talk about, you know, a lot of people are working on books, so talk about your publishing journey. Like, how did your book come about, and, you know, what happened with the publisher, and how are you going to market it, and tell us about the book journey.
Well, again, you make it sound as if there was a plan. And not that I'm shooting from the hip, but it didn't actually work out the way that I kind of thought it would. A couple of years ago, I actually set a goal to publish a book on my 54th birthday. Which,
oh my God!
I wanted to have. Yeah, I wanted to have a goal. I wanted to have a book published by the time I turned 54. And so what I did back then is I started writing. I mean, I kept track of. I keep track of my exercise. You know, every day I put a little checkbox in my calendar, and I started back then keeping track of my writing days. Now, I wasn't as faithful to that system, but I tried to write something every day. And then I was teaching this class at the Climb Center on marketing for early stage entrepreneurs, primarily early stage. And so I would take all of that writing and I sort of put it together, and I would disseminate it into a kind of a workbook, and I'd just make copies and hand it out in class, and we'd use that as the text for the class. And then, interestingly enough, about 3 weeks before my birthday, I was approached by a publisher who we were talking about something else, and he said, at the time, he said, by the way, we're always looking for good content. If you know somebody who has something, and the conversation went on, and I handed him this manuscript, and he said, "That's it. That's what I'm looking for." And it was the contract was inked by my 54th birthday.
Oh my gosh, that is so wonderful. That's so wonderful.
So I don't know how that works. There's the power of
intentionality,
positive thinking, potentiality. And working, hard work. I mean, there was a lot of hard work involved in the writing that I didn't know where it was going, but it ended up going somewhere.
Yeah, congratulations. Thrilled for you.
Yeah.
So now, of course, I'm. This is tongue in cheek as I say this. Now, of course, because you have a publisher, they're doing the marketing, right? No. So how will you market your book?
Yeah, pushing it as much as I am. I actually hired a marketing coach, believe it or not. Yeah, someone who would help me create an action plan, and she's phenomenal. She was
great.
really cool. And then even accountability. I mean, stuff that I do for other people, but you can't fill your own teeth, that kind of thing, right?
No.
So I hired a marketing coach, and we have a big push to sell 1,000 books by September 1st.
Very good.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's that. I mean, is that kind of critical mass, the 1,000?
Well, there's a guy named Tim Grahl, Grahl, I think it is, who helps some pretty big, powerful authors publish their book and promote them. And he wrote a book called Your First 1,000 Books. Mm-hmm. And I would highly recommend that to any of your folks who are thinking about writing a book. It's well worth the $15 or whatever it is to get Tim's book, because it's really been helpful for us as a template to develop our own marketing.
So, are you going to have other books, do you think? Have you
got
a bug now?
Yes. Well, I have had other books. I mean, I've been published before, and I've written a lot of stuff in ministry. I had a lot of stuff published, and I was writing a weekly newspaper article and that kind of thing. So I do love to write. And so the answer is yes, I will have other books. This is called, the book I just had published is called The Best Little Marketing Plan. And and the publisher said, "This is great. We'll also do the best little strategic plan, and the best little business plan, and the best little operational plan, and the best, And so he's got me slated to write at least one more of those in that series. The idea being that, it's sort of a mini MBA for small business owners who don't have a lot of time, but need a lot of punch for a lot of power for the work that they do. And apparently that is a pretty serious deal, because I noticed on the publisher's website that he actually has a mock-up of a book that I haven't written yet with my name on it. Oh, my
goodness. Wow. Oh,
so,
that's wonderful,
exciting.
Sean.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, my research shows me there's thousands of marketing books out there in the market. So what's different and special about yours? Why should we buy your book?
Well,
which I think we should all do.
Yes, of course. My book is little. It's called The Best Little Marketing Plan. And like I had said earlier as we talked, I'm a pragmatic guy. So there's not a lot of theory in the book. I mean, it's all backed by very solid theory, but it is basically, here's how you put together a marketing plan. Here's some worksheets to help you do it. Now go do it. will take about an hour to read and to begin to put into use. So I think that's really the difference between this marketing book and probably most other marketing books that I've seen. It's simple, it's easy, and it's very powerful, very effective.
Oh, that's wonderful, because I do think people get really bogged down into a lot of the marketing books, which go on and on, trying to be very pedantic. The author's trying to show off how smart they are rather than to help the reader. And my theory is that what you need is two elements in marketing, and the first one is your message. So, why should I choose you, your message, your unique value proposition? And then the second thing you need is who are you trying to get that message to? So who's your target customer? And then everything else is about using a methodology to get your message to your target. And, I couldn't run into anybody who was teaching marketing like that. They're all trying to teach you the ins and outs of how to use your website and, should you do a teleseminar or a webinar, and, how to give a talk or how to write a brochure. And you think, wait a minute, let's get down to the basics here. And it sounds like you're pretty much down at the basics. So.
Well, it's pretty really basic stuff that gets people to start thinking about really marketing is about how my customers can find me, right?
Yeah.
So that's what your brand's all about. It's about helping them find you. And so, this is really designed to be put into action very quickly. And
cool.
And we've seen a lot of folks who have used this marketing plan template get some great results.
Fabulous.
We had one gal last year who actually ended up doubling her sales in the last year. Now, I'd love to claim all of that, but she really worked the plan. But she did use the book and the concept and follow the plan. So it works.
Yeah. And a lot of times I know that little businesses simply just don't know how to get started. And it sounds like you get their feet right on the path and, do these things. And maybe later as their business grows, they might want to do more sophisticated things. But this will get you started, and it's probably going to get some results, and it certainly isn't going to hurt you. So, spend some time, read this, fill out the forms, and let's get going, because action's so important. So are you continuing to do, your speaking as well? I guess my question was, will the book get you more speaking engagements, or will the speaking engagements sell more books? With chicken or egg?
It can go both ways, right?
Uh-huh.
I know professional speakers who do both. I tend to be using the book more as a calling card, as an entree to get speaking. And I'm not when we talk about speaking, by the way, I'm not really a podium kind of keynote speaker. I'm more of a trainer. So, the people who hire me tend to be associations, groups of people, like groups of entrepreneurs. Like I worked with a group of management consultants, and I tend to do more teaching than I do the speaking. And the book is a really nice calling card for that. Yeah. Now, hopefully it will also sell some at the speaking engagements, but, I'm really using it as a calling card.
I think that's a great way to put it. I think most of us who have written books find out that that's what the book is. There's enough bestsellers out there, who make a huge amount of money, but they're, that you think it could possibly be you. But the truth is they're kind of few and far between, and I think most of the rest of us who have a book are really, as you say, a calling card, or as I call it, your manifesto. This is what I believe. This is what's working. This is how it all fits together. and this is how I'm going to coach you, or this is how I'm going to speak to your group. And what I've done is I've pulled all this out of my brain and made it clear.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I suppose if I felt like making a lot of money on the book, I wouldn't have actually gone with a publisher because, that I sold the book basically, and any of the real money that is made off it goes to them, and I get a buck or two off of each book. But I won't make a living that way. But it sure does help to connect with people and give some legitimacy to the work that I'm doing.
Oh, absolutely. Because people go, oh, you have a book. it's great authority given to you because of that. So we're getting short on time. So do you have some really wonderful advice, 2 or 3 things people should do if they're solo or encores and they're starting their ventures and want to find some success? Are there 2 or 3 things they should do?
Well, I would say the first is to get clear about your goals. So set goals that are very clear, and don't be afraid to say no to some things. Set goals that match up with your core values and your passion, and then to turn those goals into an action plan. What are the steps that I need to do to make these goals come true? And this is where, as I said, this is where I hired a coach to help me. So you might think about hiring a coach to help you. And then also accountability. So that now I have the action plan. How am I going to be held accountable? And whether that's whether that's an SBDC advisor or a business coach or even a good friend who will really, sort of kick you in the fanny and make sure that you have your stuff done. Do it.
Yes.
So those would be the steps: goals, action plan, accountability.
Cool. That sounds like good advice. So I know we have listeners who'd love to connect with you, and can you tell them how to get hold of you and how they can buy your book?
Absolutely. There are actually several ways that they can get in touch with me. First of all, my website is drseanharry.com. So DrSeanharry.com. No spaces, no nothing. So drseanharry.com. And then I have actually set up a Better, Smarter, Richer page. So if you go to drseanharry.com/BSR, they can go in and they can actually get a copy of the workbook that is the companion to my book. There's a 10 or 12 worksheets there. They can get a copy of that simply by entering their name and email address, and then it takes them right to where they can download the free worksheets. So that's one thing I would certainly encourage your folks to do, is to go get that. I didn't actually get permission from my publisher to put those worksheets up there. I did tell him I was going to do it, and he hasn't told me yet not to. So tell people to go there before he tells me to take it down if he does. Right.
Got it.
And then, of course, I have a Facebook page, Dr. Sean Harry Facebook page. And I'm having a launch party this Sunday, the 22nd. I hope this airs before that. If not, too bad. But the information for that is on my website as well. And if people want to buy the books, they can either go to my website where there's a link, or they can go .com. But I'd love to have you go to my website, drseanharry.com, and enter. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Right.
Well, this has been absolutely delightful to talk to you. I wish you every success on your book and the work that you're doing. I know that it's important work, it's valuable work, and it's been just delightful to have a chance to talk with you about it, and I'm thrilled for you. And so I say we're out of time, and listeners, I want to remind you, this is Jackie B. Peterson, and my book is Better, Smarter, Richer. So go to that website as well, bettersmarterricher.com. I also have a free ebook that you can download that just kind of outlines the 7 principles. We know that solo businesses are distinctly different from traditional businesses, and this will help you get online to understand the things that you have to do to be financially successful as a solo, including your marketing. And I'd love to have you do that. Sign up for the newsletter and, put your email address in, and we'll have you on the newsletter that goes out regularly with telling you about new radio guests, and also goes out with new classes, new information. There's a calendar on the website, so you'll know where I'm talking, what I'm doing. I hope you'll, pay attention to that and show up in person if you have time and the ability to do it. So thank you again for tuning in today. This has been a great discussion, and I look forward to talking with you again on Solo Pro Radio. Goodbye.
Bye.